She was a voice for the people.
What we've done and what we will do is really remarkable.
A trailblazer for progress and justice.
And we're not going to give up.
Congresswoman Louise Slaughter has died at the age of 88.
She led the way for women here in our community.
This community has lost a real friend.
Tonight, team coverage remembering her life and legacy. Good evening. Tonight we remember that friend to our community, Louise Slaughter, a champion for change, a crusader for health, jobs, and women's rights. She let no one stand in her way. Congresswoman Slaughter's remarkable congressional career began with a victory more than 30 years ago in 1986, a life of service that would span for decades to come. Tonight, flags are flying at half-staff at Rochester City Hall, the Monroe County Office Building, and on Capitol Hill. We begin our team coverage tonight with 13 Wham's Doug Embledge, live from Washington, D.C. Doug?
Good evening, Jenny. Louise Slaughter died after suffering a head injury in a fall at her Washington brownstone. It was the home her late husband had lovingly restored. You mentioned the flags at half-staff. The word of her death spread quickly through the halls of the Capitol today, and indeed, the flag that is in front of the Capitol Rotunda was among the first to be lowered. It is hard to overstate Louise Slaughter's influence here in Washington. She was the first woman to become the chair of the powerful House Rules Committee, and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi considers Slaughter a personal hero and mentor.
I had heard about her from Mario Cuomo. She has already been elected to Congress. I would be elected in a special election later. And so the first day I came to the Capitol as the nominee. I wasn't elected yet, but came as a nominee. I was walking down the hall, and she came down the hall with Vic Fazio. And I met her, and I said, well, I know you from Mario Cuomo. He's sung your praises to the sky. And so I had the perfect introduction because I loved him and I loved her. So they both acted upon their values.
She is being remembered for her Southern charm and as a tireless fighter. We are told by her chief of staff that it is likely a funeral service will be held late next week in Rochester, and then there will be another service in April here in Washington, D.C. In Washington tonight, Doug Embledge, 13 Wham News.
Doug, thank you. No one worked harder or longer to represent our area in Washington than Louise Slaughter. In the ultimate power city, Congresswoman Slaughter had a seat at the table. Her legacy will impact people here and across the country for generations to come. In a land of career politicians, Louise Slaughter stood out. She was a microbiologist who immediately recognized the disparity in money spent on women's health.
When we say we were just ignored and left out, it is absolutely so.
Congresswoman Slaughter helped secure the first $500 million for federal research into breast cancer. And she worked to finally include women and minorities in federal health research. Until that point, research had only been done on white men.
The debate was awful at times. It made you feel so dreadful to know that they had so little respect for us. And I was told there would be a quota system, and I pointed out that there had always been a quota system, 100% white male. And the rest of us wanted in on this research we were helping to pay for.
Fran Weisberg, a longtime friend who ran Slaughter's first congressional campaign, says Slaughter was a visionary from women's rights to health care and the arts.
What do you think among her greatest legacies will be?
The arts. She did a great deal of work in healthcare in general, and a lot of work on science and technology and believing in academic medical centers and research.
Congresswoman Slaughter was a tireless advocate, a voracious reader who worked long days in Washington. On weekends, she frequently returned home to work. Just 2 weeks ago today, I interviewed her for the final time as she answered critics of the photonics facility she has long supported.
They're going to get their money's worth.
And friends tell me Congresswoman Slaughter was first and foremost a devoted wife, mother, and grandmother. She and her husband, Bob, who died in 2014, were married for 57 years. She is survived by 3 daughters and 7 grandchildren. She was surrounded by family when she passed away in a Washington hospital today. Louise Slaughter was an advocate for her constituents and an inspiration to her colleagues. We begin this part of our team coverage with 13 Wham's Matt Malloy in reaction from fellow Democrats here and beyond. Matt?
Ginny, a fighter who never backed down from what she believed. That is how Democratic leaders are remembering Congresswoman Louise Slaughter today. Assembly Majority Leader Joe Morelli says it was Louise Slaughter who first encouraged him to run for office.
She's been a mentor and a friend. I always refer to her as an American patriot, and so it's just very, very sad today.
Morelli says she was proud when he became Majority Leader and always had a special message for him when he missed her phone calls.
She'd say, Morelli, you need a special phone just for me. I know you're down on those important meetings, but you need a phone just for me so I can get in touch with you.
Morelli believes Slaughter's legacy will be felt for years to come. Mayor Lovely Warren agrees.
It wasn't just about being a Democrat and leading in Democratic issues. She was able to work in Congress across the aisle and reach across and say to Republicans, I need your help with this.
Warren and Morelli say in addition to her fighting spirit, they'll miss her warmth.
We're going to miss that, that Southern drawl that she brought to, all of her speeches, and that just warm spirit that she shared with each and every citizen in our community.
She wanted to fight for the person who didn't have a voice. That was Louise Slaughter's whole life story.
Monroe County Democrats will open their doors tomorrow for a day-long memorial. People are invited to stop by and share their memories of the Congresswoman at their office on University Avenue. Ginny?
And there will be many. Thank you, Matt. Slaughter dedicated much of her career to fighting for local businesses and bringing jobs here. One of her most recent missions included Rochester's photonics venture. 13 Wham's Carlette Claire is live from Fairport, where the Congresswoman was proud to call it home. Carlette?
That's right. Former police chief and mayor Bob Duffy says that the Congresswoman Louise Slaughter always played by the rules, listening and helping him bring the shot spotter technology here. He says Slaughter's legendary footprint could be seen throughout Rochester and Monroe County. That's as she tirelessly worked to solidify millions of dollars for a number of projects. Some include the new train station, which opened this year, filling in the inner loop, and most recently leading the campaign to bring a national photonics hub at Eastman Business Park.
You look at all these big projects, and she was hugely influential in Washington. Well, she served everybody, and again, to have somebody like that leave, and you can count project after project after project she led, and she brought so much money back here.
Former Mayor Tom Richards says that Louise Slaughter always put the needs of Rochester first. He called her a fervent fighter and getting things done. Reporting live in Fairport, Carlette Claire, 13 Wham News.
Carlette, thank you. And more remembrances. Governor Cuomo says Louise Slaughter was a champion for New York, who had a larger-than-life presence in Rochester area politics. New York Senator Chuck Schumer says Louise was a giant with deep convictions, and her advocacy was matched only by the depth of her compassion and humanity. He went on to say her passing will leave a gaping hole in our hearts and our nation. Despite their political differences, local Republican leaders respected the Congresswoman's steadfast dedication as a voice of the people. 13 Wham's Justin Carter continues our team coverage tonight.
Hey, Jenny, that's right. All agreed Louise never put politics over people. Gatestown Supervisor Mark Cassini, a Republican, ran against Louise and lost both times. He says he had no shame in losing to her. He says she was beloved not only because she was a good politician, but because she was a good person. They were supposed to have lunch after he conceded the last time. He says that never happened, and he regrets that. All GOP leaders agreeing tonight. The community lost an icon.
There are very few leaders like Louise Slaughter. They come along in a generation, and you're very fortunate to have somebody like that.
I knew I could always pick up the phone, call Louise, as well as her staff, and we could always have great dialogue and how we could be the most effective for delivering for this region.
But personally, I love the fact that as a woman leader, that she remained true to her values. She remained committed to her family, never lost sight of how important family is, and still went out and got the job done.
GOP leaders calling her a fighter, and that's what they say they will miss the most every day. Jenny?
Remarkable words. Thank you, Justin. People have been paying their respects at the Susan B. Anthony House in Rochester. Louise Slaughter was a driving force in preserving women's rights. The roots of that historic movement run deep in Rochester. 13 Wham's Antoinette Del Bell has more on how Slaughter continued to pave the way for women's health and diversity.
Louise Slaughter wasn't afraid to stand up for women.
This little big woman who just really had the confidence and, you know, the all-togetherness to tackle the big issues and get in with the guys, you know, and kind of pummel them out of the way, you know.
Holly Anderson from the Breast Cancer Coalition says the Congresswoman was a longtime friend who secured vital funding for research.
Back when breast cancer research was, you know, just such a low priority, it was a women's disease and women's health issues didn't get a lot of attention, didn't get a lot of funding allocation. Louise fought for that funding.
Slaughter pushed her way through Congress to help the Susan B. Anthony House and Museum become a National Historic Landmark.
Part of her legacy is that we're able to share Susan B. Anthony's story and inspire others.
The National Women's Hall of Fame also remembering her as an inspiration. A leader, Anderson says, whose legacy will leave a lasting impression.
She inspired us. Her dedication inspired our dedication. And her legacy has become our legacy. We have big shoes to fill.
Antoinette Del Bell, 13 Wham News.
Big shoes to fill indeed. There is still more ahead on 13 Wham News at 6. How Louise Slaughter's political roots are tied to a small forest in Fairport. We continue our team coverage on the passing of veteran Congresswoman Louise Slaughter, an icon. The roots of her political ambitions began in her quest to save a small forest in Perrington. 13 Wham's Samantha Miles picks up the story from here.
Jenny, there's a group of trees that she could see from her kitchen window in her Fairport home. She never moved out of that home, and fighting for these trees is how folks say she got her start in politics. She fought to preserve the beech maple trees of Hearts Woods in Perrington. The preservation group tells me she believed saving those trees from being cut down by developers was more important to her than the rewards of building houses there. She and her husband formed a group to preserve the woods. Members say she worked tirelessly to save the trees, which eventually became a national natural landmark.
I think she was inspired. She and her husband really had a good understanding of the forest. They knew about its plants, its animals, you know, amphibians and birds. She's always been a very good, you know, spokesperson for environmental issues nationally, and it all started here in Fairport.
And he tells me a lot of local people know that history, and so when they hike Hearts Woods, they think of Louise Slaughter.
All right, thank you, Samantha, where an outstanding political career began.
Well, we started out with some of that lake effect snow early this morning, but it's amazing how quickly the sun started to come out through the afternoon. And even though it's cold, even though the wind chill is an issue, the sunshine makes a world of difference here. And you can see on the Wham cam here, we're in pretty good shape. The temperature, though, only 29 degrees. We got the 30 through the afternoon. And what we're looking to see is those winds come down a little bit more. And I think it's still going to be gusty through the early evening. And then later tonight, they'll drop off a little bit. And then I think slowly through the day on Saturday, the winds will start to diminish. Now, keep this in mind. If you're going out to the St. Patrick's Day celebrations, make sure you dress in layers. It is still going to be cold. Even though we're going to get a lot of sunshine as we go through the day, the temperature is going to struggle. I think we get into the mid-30s through the afternoon, but at least it is going to be dry, so no issues there. Here's a look at the futurecast, and the high pressure dominates the area with plenty of cold air across the Great Lakes. And then the big change, this is what we're going to be watching, is this next storm track here going into Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, it appears the big snow is going to stay south of Rochester, and we're already starting to see on some of the computer modeling who's going to get the accumulation. It looks like it's going to be down south of Pennsylvania. We'll keep track of it. Our planning forecast, patchy clouds as we go through the evening. The temperature is going to be dropping through the 20s. We think by later tonight, we're down to about 21 degrees, and I think the winds will drop off a little bit. Tomorrow morning, a few clouds initially, and again, hopefully the sunshine will help a little bit as we go through the afternoon. The high temperature is going to be near 34 degrees. Sunday looks pretty good. We're going to be near 40 degrees. The dry weather continues into Monday. There's the official start of spring. That's going to be on Tuesday. The problem is it's just not going to feel like it. We'll get some wind. We'll get some snow showers, and the temperature is going to stay in the 30s Wednesday, Thursday, maybe a little warmer next weekend.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Hey, Toby Motika is here with sports.
Yeah, the Bills suffered their first big loss of free agency. We'll also get you ready for that big Syracuse game and tell you why one former Section 5 star helped Buffalo advance.
We have breaking news now out of Spencerport. Crews on the scene of an apartment fire on Brockport Road. We have a crew on the scene and will pass along any new details when they become available.
Now, 13 Wham Sports, driven by Bob Johnson Chevrolet.
Well, an historic season ended for St. Bonaventure last night, but it continues for Buffalo. UB blowing out Arizona and busting brackets in the process. 13 seed UB got the first tournament win in program history, and a Section 5 kid helped him do it. East High grad Dante Carruthers didn't score. In fact, missed this layup, but the former conference defensive player of the year stuck with it, found his teammate for three, and that swung it. A 7-point game became a 10-point game, and UB never looked back. Posted that play on Twitter, and multiple people said that play and player exemplify this team. They will play Kentucky tomorrow at 5:15. Syracuse will try and join them in the round of 32 tonight. The Orange playing TCU at 9:40. Mike Catalana is in Detroit with the Orange and has a preview.
All right, Toby, as we get set for Syracuse to play TCU tonight, once again, it comes down to how that Syracuse zone defense performs. And we know Jamie Dixon knows this zone from his days at Pitt, now as the TCU head coach. But we've seen Syracuse be really effective with their defense, especially the other night against Arizona State. Franklin Howard's one of the guys we talked to, and we said, when you get another team scrambling, can you sense the defense is having its impact?
Yeah. Definitely. You know, when you see guys kind of, you know, looking around, you know, a little extra, you know, kind of holding the ball, you know, not moving the ball as much, you know, you can understand that the zone might be getting to them. Or on the other hand, you know, they might try to move it too quick. Same as any defense. You know, when you stop another team, that definitely is going to rev you up a little bit, you know, give you some extra energy.
Oh, and when you talk about energy, Howard's going to need that tonight. He's coming off that strep throat. Still doesn't appear to be 100%, but he'll be ready to go tonight. And everybody else, maybe you should take a nap, because this one doesn't start here in Detroit until 9:40 tonight. With the Orange in the NCAA tournament, Mike Catalana, 13 Wham Sports. Toby?
All right, thank you, Mike. And the madness does extend to Section 5. North Star in the Class C state semis today against Tully. The game was tied at half, but it was all North Star in the second. They locked down on defense, got big games by the Brown twins. They win by 13. We'll have more extended highlights and reaction tonight. And the Bills' first big loss of free agency is right in the middle of the defense. Preston Brown signing a one-year deal with his hometown team, the Cincinnati Bengals. He led the Bills in all of the NFL with 144 tackles next season and was one of the truly good guys in that locker room. Sincerely, good luck to Preston. He will be missed in Orchard Park.
A lot of changes.
Yeah.
Bring the layers if you're going out to the St. Patrick's Day parade. Temperatures are going to be in the 30s. Still a gusty wind. The temperature near 40 by Sunday.
Green layers, lots of them.
And of course, we have Syracuse tonight, but also the Amherst are on the road, and Tiger Woods even par today, still 4 on.
All right, thank you. We want to conclude our coverage tonight with the tribute to the life and legacy of Congresswoman Louise Slaughter. Flags flying at half-staff in Washington, Rochester City Hall, and Monroe County's building.